Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our Cindy's Unite session. My name is Priya, and I'm joined by Gayatri from the Cindy's Unite admin team today. With Cindy's Unite, we focus on carrying the Cindy culture forward through language, history, music, writing, food, and so much more. Today, we are excited to share our author series with you, continuing our author series. And a little bit about Cindy's Unite. We started back in 2020. Bharti and Anjali started it on the social media app Clubhouse, which is audio only. We meet weekly there every Saturday, um, around 12:30 p.m. New York time. And we discuss different Cindy topics: music, food, language, what brings us together, what are we happy to celebrate about being Cindy. And every now and again, such as today, we do a session on Zoom because we feel it's important to document these important moments of our history. So feel free to join us at Cindy's Unite on Clubhouse. We are also on Instagram at Cindy's Unite, and we're also on YouTube at Cindy's Unite. Today's session is being recorded. If you are not comfortable being recorded, not a problem. Now would be a good time to leave, and you can watch the recording on YouTube. And also, I'm going to turn it over to Gayatri to share a little bit about the session today, as well as introduce our speakers. Gayatri?
So, hi everyone. I am going to talk about the book first that we are going to discuss tonight. That is The Seven Queens, Sindhi Folk Tales Retold in English Verses by Menka Shivdasani. The book goes about retelling of stories from the Sindhi folk traditions that have been immortalized by Shah Abdul Latif. These stories, among them, have Sasui Pannu, Umar Marui, and Mumal Rano. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced them, have been recreated in English through a dialogue format between the two central characters. They are stories of love and lust, greed and humility, patriotism and deceit, weakness and strength of characters, of human nature and emotions that have remained unchanged over the centuries. There are also stories of women with agency who are willing to climb mountains and battle stormy rivers to gain what they seek in life. Written originally in English by Menka Shivdasani, these stories have been translated into Sindhi by Barkha Khushalani. In a discussion with the author and translation, the poems will be presented in both English and Sindhi by Barkha Khushalani, Sushil Gajwani, and Menka Shivdasani. Talking about our authors here, I would like to introduce our writer, Menka Shivdasani ji. She is a Bombay-based a poet, editor, and a translator. She has written five books of poetries, co-translated Freedom and Fishers, an anthology of Sindhi partition poetry in 1998 by Sahitya Academy, edited a Big Bridge Anthology of Contemporary Indian Poetry and the Sparrow Anthology of Women's Writing. She is also a co-founder of Poetry Circle, which was introduced in 1986 and currently co-chairs Asia Pacific Writers and Translators Group. Another panelist, Mr. Sushil Gajwani. He is a filmmaker and an author. He has directed Marathi and Hindi feature films. His Sindhi feature film, Aakhri Train, The Last Train, based on the partition of India, is being screened all over India and in the US. His English book Sunrise Over Valivade was launched in Hyderabad Lit Fest 2025 as well as at Mumbai's iconic National Center for Performing Arts. It's based on the post-partition life of the Sindhi refugees in the Valivade camp, Kolhapur, Maharashtra. He has also written an English play, A Thousand Years Temple Bells. Roots the Time Traveler is a Sushil Gajwani program based on the partition poetry in Sindhi and is presented in English and Sindhi language. Menka Shivdasani, Barkha Kushalani, Gayatri Lakhiani Chawla, Sashi Gajwani, and the legendary Nand Javeri are an integral part of Roots, the Time Traveler. Introducing Barkha Kushalani, she is a poet, filmmaker, columnist, lyricist, and a translator. She received the NCPSL award for translating Sudha Murthy's book, The Day I Stopped Drinking Milk into Sindhi. Maharashtra Rajya Sindhi Sahitya Academy awarded her for her book on children's poems Dadi Thi Vani. Dadi Tivani. I'm sorry, Barkha ji, if I'm not able to keep up. She writes in three languages, Sindhi, English, and Hindi. She has written the screenplay, dialogues, and lyrics of two songs in the Sindhi feature film with English subtitles, Akhri Train, which was released in 2023. She is also one of the four producers of the films, which is based on a love story during the partition penned by her father, Thakur Chawla. This film is a humble endeavor to promote the Sindhi language through cinema. It has been appreciated in all cities all over India. Carrying the session forward, I would like to hand it over to Menka and Sushil to start reciting the poems. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Gayatri and Priya, for this amazing initiative. And it's really heartening to see how young people are trying to reclaim the culture that unfortunately we lost after partition. I also belong to that generation of Sindhis who lost touch with the language and the culture. And it was only in my, I think, in my late 20s that I realized that there was something missing in my life because I was so disconnected from everything that I came from. And it was at that time that I worked with Anju Makhija and Dr. Arjun Shah to translate Sindhi partition poetry. And that is where I first heard the folk tales from Arjun Shah. It is not something that I ever grew up hearing, certainly not in a city like Mumbai, which encouraged convent school education and a more cosmopolitan outlook. So this was the book that we did in 1998, and Arjun Shad, who had lived through partition, told us about these stories. And years later, I read a book by Mohan Gehani. This was written originally in Sindhi by Pritam Baryani of the Indian Institute of Sindhology. And these were the folk tales, the Sindhi folk tales, written in Sindhi and then translated by Mohan Gyani into English. So that book is, I think, available if Indian Institute of Sindhology has published it. I'm sure it would be available on their site. And over time, I started thinking, I write poetry in English. It is very different from the folktale book that I've done. But I just felt the need to retell the Sindhi folk tales, my voice as a poet. And I had no idea how I was going to do this. I had no idea of what I was going to do with these tales. I could not even relate to them when I first read these stories. To my untutored mind and tongue, I could not relate to these stories at all because it just seemed like people were falling into a faint because they'd fallen in love with somebody they'd never met, and that sort of thing. And it took me many, many years of reading. I realized that if I was going to try and understand the deeper meaning behind these stories, then I would have to read much more about Sindhi literature and culture and history and geography and landscape and music and anything to do with the Sindhi heritage. And that process took me, I think, for 4 years. I did nothing but read books about Sindhi culture and history and heritage and language. And the more I read, the less I knew, because there was always so much more to know. And I have been very privileged in that I've also had the pleasure and privilege of working with Mohan Gehani, as I think he's here today. Um, is he here? He must speak
I
in that
think he may
case.
have left.
Okay, he had come in earlier, and
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
hoping that he would say a few words. But to go forward with my, the Seven Queens, when I started finally writing it, I realized that I would not, these 4 years of reading, I did not write a single line. And I said, I finally realized that I just needed to start writing the stories and asking the questions as I went along. And things like completely unexpected things. How did Toby's wash clothes before soap was invented? Can camels ride as fast as horses? How did a potter's wheel work in prehistoric times? Because when you're writing a poem, you have to bring in the minutiae to populate the imagery and the life of the verse. So I realized that unless I just started the process, I would never get anything done. So I began with the poem called Sasvi Punu, with the Tale of the Mountains. And around that time, Sushil Gajwani, the filmmaker, called me. I didn't know him at all. And he said he was starting something to do with poetry, Sindhi poetry. And he wanted me to be a part of that. And I just written this one poem, Sasvi Punu Tale, and I wasn't sure what I was doing. I wasn't sure if it made any sense. I personally could not relate to it, even though I had written it, because it was so different from any of the other poems that I have written, which, my book Frizzle, if anyone has ever gets access to it, you find the poems are completely different from what I've done here. And Sushil read it and called me and said, I would like to make a film out of this. And that gave me some confidence in thinking, okay, maybe there is something here that uh, might work. And how to tell these stories, because they're very complex. And if you're saying them in verse form, then how do I bring all the various strands together? And then I realized that the dialogue format was what worked. So it's a conversation between Sasvi Punu, it's a conversation between Mumal Rano. These are all dialogue poems. And really, it was Sushil who sort of pushed me into, when is your second poem? When is the third poem? Where's the fourth poem? And it was, in fact, he got a date for the launch. There's a poster behind me. That is the launch at the National Center for the Performing Arts. And when he was given the date for the launch of this book, it was not even a manuscript. It was barely a manuscript. And somehow within a month, it was put together. I had requested Barkha Khushalani to translate them because I wanted to give back to the Sindhi heritage in some way, to give back to people who may not have heard the stories, but who might respond if they were made available in English. So I was very grateful for the support that I received from Sushil and Barkha. And of course, from Mohan Gehani. I wish he were here. I, we must try and get him back if we can. But over to Sushil, over to Barkha.
We're trying to
Is
get him
something
back.
and there is a video
I've
of that
messaged
first.
him.
There is a video of that first poem that I wrote, which is to tie in the whole thing.
Yes, I can share
Maybe
that
we
now if
can.
you like.
Yes, Barkha, would you like to say something first as a translator?
Um, yes, just maybe I'll take just a minute. My case was different. Anything to do with Sindhi, Shah Abdul Latif, Sachal, Sami, it just, because I was brought up in a Sindhi background, and my mother would quote Shahjur Rasalo at the drop of a hat. She had a Shah Sahab couplet ready for everything in life. And she's the one who told us about all these love stories, the folk tales. And then she would tell us, Acha Hani Budayo, this song applies to which folk tale? And we would make mistakes when we were young. But then we enjoyed it. That is how, in fact, there are singers, even till today, they do not know that Pere Pavandisan applies to Saswi Punu's story. They think, oh, Pere Pavandisan applies to God, God ke Pere Pavandisan. So, but all this my mother instilled into us. So there are things which we'll never ever forget. And I'm grateful to her for introducing us to this mystic poetry of Shah, Sachal, and Sami. And And when Menka called me, there was no need for me to say no, macho kaya. Why should I do? And it fell so beautifully into place that it. I think there's a divine hand in it. So, and I have to thank Mr. Mohan Gehani because he's the one who would do my corrections. And my level of Sindhi and his level of Sindhi is poles apart. He had to come down to my level actually. But then he would teach me. He would tell me the finer nuisance. Okay, this is not done. You should do this, you should do that. And it fell into place beautifully. So this work again is what I give back to the Sindhi community and a tribute to my parents who taught me Sindhi. That's it.
Thank you so much for sharing those words. Should we show the video now?
That would be lovely. So this is a video that was made for the launch at the NCPA in August. And yeah, there is an introductory poem before all these folk tales. And that's what the video is based on. And it's a $1 Million Confidence, which is Sushil Gajwani's production. And Menka Shivdasani, my niece, was involved with making it. So
Wonderful. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to share my screen. We're going to share a short video now. Mm. Can you hear and see it? It's correct?
yes.
Yes.
The Sindhu roars in the arid spaces of the heart, deep beneath sand dunes and the rocks. Ghost oceans shiver in the dark, bringing rivers gushing out through cracks in hardened sand. And where the hardened sand crumbles into cracks, the water rushes, swallows all the land. In this cradle of civilization rocked by its rulers, Habaris and Sumras, Samas and Arguns, mendicants and monarchs of the Kalora clan, the grandeur and ruins of the Mughal court, legends lived on the old Kumbha road in the melodies of Muncher lake birds. And as the caravans of Kandahar brought stories and silks to Sindh, in the distance, the Saraswati buried its head in the sand. The Sindhu still roars, a conch shell in the ear. Its waters turn, drowning the palla, breaking the banks, sweeping away the hutments of the mind. Mud flats choke and trees collapse. The thorn bush on the banks of the Indus stands alone with no memory of the flood. The water simmers in the turgid land, waiting to break ashore. Like rivers, damned, uncertain, we nose our way to newer paths, past rocks and rubble, the silt of memory. Into these turbid waters I throw my kishta, under Lal Shahbaz's watchful eye, hope it will transform into an argosy. And we come together like grains of sand in the restless wind, blown apart in an instant in the howling storm. Far on the horizon, the lone leafless shrub sways to the sighs of ancient queens. Listen, for they sing to you their broken tunes, still sweet in the desert wind.
That was
Thank you so
lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you for playing it. Uh, I've just received a message from Mohan Gehani. Apparently, he heard the introduction, but he could not join. And he says that maybe it was his computer that was hacked. So he's not risking it, which is a real pity.
I'll
So
share the new link with him in case if he's able to join in.
he tried. Maybe we can ask him again. So Mohan Gehani was also kind enough to write the blurb for this. Um, so I just wanted him. I was hoping that he would be here, but maybe we can read the poems now. Uh, Sushi.
Yeah, let's start.
So the first poem we thought we would read is The Flute and the Tree, which is a story of Marui and Umar. And Marui is a symbol of patriotism. And this is a conversation between Marui and Umar. The poem is titled The Flute and the Tree. It has been many years since I have seen my desert land, magical Malir, that heaven in the sand. You robbed me, Umar Sumro, of the people I love, the Marus of Panwar for whom I was a turtle dove. You swooped down like a spotted eagle, made me your prey, imprisoned me in your fort, tried to make me obey. But you must accept, great king, I will never belong to you, because my heart is in the Thar, my parents too. It was Palino and Madhui who brought me to life, and I will go back to be Ketsin's wife.
You precious, obstinate woman whom I have wished to make mine. No one remembers you in the land you hold dear. No one will ever want you back in Malay. If you return, they'll only sneer because they'll believe you've been defiled. They'll no longer see you as a child. So, so get your head out of the sand and listen to me. I've been in love with you and could have made you happy, but you continue to see me as your enemy despite all the ways I command. I asked for your hand to share it with you. I treated you well and expected, deserved such treatment too.
To you, my Malir may be a mirage in the Thar, but to me, it is real. Even though now I am so far, it is a place I have loved, where I have felt whole. And though years have passed, it is alive in my soul. My loved ones may have forgotten me, but in my heart, they will always be dearer than any riches in your chilly fort, where brick walls close in as you hold court. You are king and would have me only for sport. But make no mistake, I will never be your consort.
You try to make yourself ugly, refuse to wash your hair, wear your ragged garments, though I've offered you silk and gold. You thought by these actions you could turn me away. You do not know the power you could hold over this youthful body that had waited for you. And while I could certainly have had you by force, there'd be no pleasure until you could agree to take my love in this life of luxury. Other women would gladly accept these gifts. What makes you so stubborn when you could be free?
What freedom do you speak of, you cruel monarch? For I am cocooned in the space where the day seems dark, because though the sun shines, I do not see it light up my home. And while you have given me fragrant gardens where I can roam, none of it matters because it is not where I belong. And however you try to break me, I will stay strong. Malir burns like a hot rod in my brain, and I will not rest till I see it again. One day, you will have to let me go back, to where my people await me and the world is not so black. Because in my part of the Thar, emeralds glitter in the field, and no matter what you say, I will not yield. For me, life in your cold fort holds no charm. Foxen, that traitor who tended our farm, could not have me, so he did me harm. With what evil intentions he came to you and whispered in your ear what you should do. Were you so gullible you listened to him and rode on your camel to Malir on a whim, so that you could, in the guise of a traveler, appear and snatch me from the home I held so dear? Your camel's hoofs caused a sandstorm as we flew by, and though my eyes burned, I could not cry. I beg you, king, that should I die, take my body back to Malir so I can say goodbye. In the end, one must always come home.
You're no prisoner. You're no prisoner, but a welcome king. I've tried for many years, but failed to make you my own. And this has broken my soul. It is true. Over these years, my fondness for you has grown. You are the woman I will always want. No one else has such a rare power to enchant. You leave a mark on all you see, with not just your beauty, but your purity. And though you spurn my love, you have transformed me. I must tell you a secret, though I resisted first. I've tried to ignore it, but my heart did burst.
What is it, Umar? You seem perturbed.
Some days ago, a woman came to me. She said she knew your family and she knew mine when I was an infant in arms. She told me a story I found hard to believe, because to think it true would cause me to grieve. I shut it from my mind for as long as I could, but in my heart I knew I was doing no good. Still, I attempted to make you mine. I knew it was wrong, but could not let you go. Your resolve has saved us both. I now know it is time to take you home myself. The truth is, Marui, that your mother had failed me. She was my wet nurse when my parents traveled to Malay. And I was hungry, and my mother's breast was dry. Marui came to my rescue and suckled me as her own. Marui, you're like my sister, and I must atone for the sin I've committed, the wrong I have wrought, believing you to be someone I could have bought. I still love you, but it has to be a different kind of love with a touch of purity. I've sent my man to your parents with a message from me, though I do not know if they'll accept my apology.
Umar Sumro, is this true what you say? Then let us go back at once this very day. I must see my loved ones and the man I will wed, for it is only Ketsen who will share my bed, and I cannot wait another moment to see them.
Let's go then. My camel awaits, though I am still full of sorrow as you leave these gates. Come, sister, let us return, and though my heart will forever yearn for you, I can sin no more. I can sin no more.
You do well, my king, to let me go. The truth must have been hard for you to say, I know. But you have finally earned my love and proved to me there is a God above. Let us make haste, for the desert calls my name. To delay any further would be a shame, and the sun is already going down.
I worry that after all these years, your brother will think that you're no longer pure. And if that happens, dear sister, you'll have a home with me here. Of that you can always be sure. But I'll send my army to punish them for doubting you.
First, you committed a sin by abducting me. Would you compound that with further brutality? Go, king, go back, for I see Malir in the distance, and this land alone is my reason for existence. If they doubt me, I will touch a hot iron rod to prove I am blessed by the hand of God, and they will know I am chaste of body and soul.
Then, then let us go, dear Margaret. May the saints be with you. In a world, there are so few who love a land that may forget them. If they put you to the test, know that I'll be blessed if I can prove myself too.
And when the sands of suspicion blew thick and fast in Malay, Maru and Umar held out their hands. Maru and Umar held out their hands, and the flaming iron rod was cold to their touch. They emerged unscathed, for both were pure. The fire was something they could easily endure. The fire was something they could easily endure. Now, the kinsfolk listened when Maru spoke. The truth she had always known to these simple folk. We all belong to the place of our birth. We all belong to the place of our birth and must return to that heaven on earth. If we have lost our way, if we have lost our way, the flute must be one with the wind and the tree, to the space where it found its melody. Only then is it truly home. Only then is it truly home. Umar Marui by Menka Shivdasani. And I must add one thing that Umar Marui, as Menka told us, Shah Abdul Latif's every tale has all the qualities or weaknesses of a normal human being. We all are like that. We are sometimes greedy, jealous, happy, in love. But Umar Marwi shows Marwi's love for her motherland, for her watan. So this story is based on that. The next one which we will do is Sasui Punu, which is based on Sasui's sacrifice, Punu's sacrifice, because he was a prince. He became a dhobi to be with Sasui. Then Sasui's yearning, longing, and her self introspection and a self realization, and how she crosses mountains from Bambo to Kech Makan just to be with Punu. Shall we start it or we'll wait? Gayatri and Priya, do you have to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to share with everybody that the first set of poems were in English, and now some other ones may be in Sindhi and even Hindi, so that although there are different poems that are being recited, we wanted to have something for everybody, no matter which language you're most comfortable with understanding.
So let me just show you before we start. This book has the original English, it has Devanagari Sindhi, and it has also Arabic Sindhi. So
RBC.
the same poems are translated into all three scripts. I mean,
Great.
English, Perso Arabic, and Devanagari Sindhi.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing that. Please continue.
So the next one is going to be Sasri Punu's story in Sindhi by Barkha Khushalani and Sushil Gajwani. What I really liked about these women is that they all have agency. That's where I connected with them because they all, they were not just waiting for life to happen to them. They were they were willing to go after what they wanted. They were willing to swim against currents and scale mountains. And, that's really what appealed to me. And Dr. Femida Hussain, has written a lovely book about this that I had also referred to. Please. It's also exciting for me to hear the Sindhi translations.
Okay, shall we start?
Yes,
The title is Jabalanji Pukar. That's the call of the mountains. Menka has rightly named it Call of the Mountains because Sasui went and crossed mountains to go and meet Punu. And there are many songs also based on this. One of them I would like to quote one sentence where she is crying to the mountains, Dungar dukh na de. She's telling the mountains, please don't give me so much trouble because I have to cross you and reach Punu. So we'll start with Jabalanji Pukar. Punu मुश्क जो सौदागर आहे न न मां भाया को जादूगर आहे तुंहिंजे सिक जे नशे आ तरसायो दूर बयाबान जी धुंध में जबलनि जे झुंड में मां थी ॾिसां रोशन कारवा पुनू मुंहिंजा राजकुमार तुंहिंजी मोहींदड़ महक सिज खे छुई मुंहिंजे फचियल पेरनि खे चुमियो आहे हिक खिन लाइ मुंहिंजे सुकायल मन में हिक नदी कल कल वहे थी इहो पल इलाही आहे इहो पल इलाही आहे पर तकिड़ो गुज़री वेंदो मुश्क जा जादूगर सौदागर ॿीहर मिलंदासीं तुंहिंजी सिक जे नशे आ तरसायो मां ससुई आहियां जंहिं चंड जी ताक़त खे काबू कयो as Menka said the women were so determined at that time too she says मां ससुई आहियां जंहिं चंड जी ताक़त खे काबू कयो पर नंढपिण में बांबड़ा पाईंदे सुर खे न विसारियो मां त नओं जावल ॿार हुयसि जॾहिं हुननि संदूक में बंदि करे नदीअ में फिटो कयो दलुराए दूर ॿीअ धरतीअ ॾांहुं लेख विधाता जो कीअं चुकाया लेख विधाता जो कीअं चुकाया मुंहिंजा माता पिता नाव ऐं मांदुर मूंखे प्यार कंदा हुआ पर मूंखे पाण खां परे मोकिलियो पंडित जी अॻकथी जा मुंहिंजे कोमल अखियुनि मां ज़ाहिर थी हीअ मुसलमान सां शादी कंदी हुन चयो ऐं मुंहिंजनि माइटनि जो धर्म ॾकियो अड़े ईअं न थिए त मां तारनि सां ॻाल्हियूं करणु लॻसि सितारा मुंहिंजा रहनुमा थिया सितारा मुंहिंजा रहनुमा थिया मूंखे तो ॾांहुं छिकींदा आया हाणे मां तोखे पुनू पथर दिलि टकरियुनि में ॻोल्हियां थी भल ऋण जी रेत में मूंखे घुटे पर को बि बर भंग मूंखे हाराए न सघंदो पुनू मुंहिंजा प्यारा मुश्क जा जादूगर सौदागर ॿीहर मिलंदासीं तुंहिंजी सिक जे नशे आ तरसायो
मुंहिंजी प्यारी मूं तुंहिंजी तलाश आहे हरनि खे बलूचिस्तान जे उबाण के जबल चोट तां जिते मूंखे सभु केच मकरान जो राजकुमार आरी जाम जो पुट करे ॼाण पर मुंहिंजो वजूद त तूं आहीं मुंहिंजो वजूद त तूं आहीं मां बना माथीअ चोट सभु आर पार लंघी आयुसि थटे जी राह ॾांहुं त थोड़ी ऐं रिबनूं विकणंदे तुंहिंजी सूंहं जी वखाण हिते मुंहिंजो रहबर हुई मुंहिंजो रहबर ऐं हीउ वापारी जो वेस बणियो मुंहिंजो हिसो मुंहिंजे जीअ जो हिसो न हुआ मूंखे के ज़ेवर मूंखे ॻोल्हाई हिक रतन जी जा हुईं तूं जंहिंखे मूं पाए विञायो मूं मोहम्मद धोबीअ जो नालो ॿुधो हो जो भंबोर में कबीले जो सरदार हो कीअं तूं सही सलामत नदीअ जे तेज़ वहिकिरे खां बचीअ ख़ुदा बणो तुंहिंजो निगहबान धोबी तुंहिंजा बना धोबीअ तुंहिंजो पिता जो रूप धारण कयो ॾींहं कपह जा कतवा विया ऐं चौतरफ़ चरखो मूं तरफ़ वधंदो आयो मुंहिंजी दिलि तुंहिंजे प्रेम जे कचनि धागनि में अटकी तुंहिंजो चंड जहिड़ो चहिरो आ मुंहिंजो रहबर सितारो ससुई मुंहिंजी प्यारी सुर्ग रूपी आकाश खोल त मां तो में समाइजी वञा
पुनू मुंहिंजा राजकुमार मां तोखे ॿुधां थी उन्हीअ ऋण जी हीर जिया जा हल्के सां कन ते सुराए थी पर मुंहिंजे मथां आहे कठोर आसमान पर मुंहिंजे मथां आहे कठोर आसमान ऐं ज़मीन ते पेरनि मां रत ज़ार ज़ार वहे मूं तोखे मुल्कंदे ॾिठो मां जबल जी चोट तां अॻिते वधियसि ऐं तूं लापता थी वे दूर हिकु कारवां ॾिसां थी काश मां उठ जे अख में वारीअ जो कड़ो हुजां हा काश मां उठ जे अख में वारीअ जो कड़ो हुजां हा जेको तोखे मुंहिंजे क़रीब आणे हा तुंहिंजो कारवां ॾिसी मां ख़ुशीअ विचां गदगद ॼण के जन्म गुज़री विया तोखे ॾिठे ॼण के जन्म गुज़री विया तोखे ॾिठे ॼण ख़ुशीअ हिकु अनोखे एतर जी बोतल में बंदि ॼण ख़ुशी हिकु अनोखे इतर जी बोतल में बंदि, अहिड़ा अजूबा मूं न ॾिठा न ॿुधा। सिपुनि जूं मालाऊं, बलोच जा चूड़ा, कोमल ऐं नाज़ुक, सतरंगी रंगनि में जड़ियल, पर मूंखे तात तुंहिंजी, पर पुनू मूंखे तात तुंहिंजी। मुंहिंजी ख़ुशी सिर्फ़ तूं, तुंहिंजे साम्हूं सभु हीरा जवाहर असुर पिका, तोसां मिलण को स्वर्ग जो सैर आहे। तोसां मिलण को स्वर्ग जो सैर हो, मुंहिंजे लाइ तो सवें त्याग कया खिलंदे खिलंदे, मुंहिंजे लाइ तो सवें त्याग कया खिलंदे खिलंदे। मुश्क जा जादूगर सौदागर, ॿीहर मिलंदासीं, तुंहिंजी सिक जे नशे आ तरसायो।
तस्वीर मुंहिंजी प्यारी, छा मुंहिंजे सुपननि में तुंहिंजो आवाज़ आहे? कन ते को धुंधलो परलाउ, पर तूं किथे आई? धोबी घाटनि में मां केॾो न ख़ुशि हुयुसि। इंतज़ारु हूंदो घर पहुची तुंहिंजो खिलम चहिरो पसां। कबीले जे सरदार मूंखे धोबी ठाहे छॾियो, मुंहिंजे नीअ खे परखण लाइ ऐं कपिड़ा धोअण जे हुनर तपासण लाइ। हीअ असांजी ज़ात जो न आहे, मोहम्मद चयो। मूंखे हुनखे ग़लति साबित करणो हो। ससुई, तूं केॾी न सियाणी हुई, केतिरी त सियाणी हुई। मूंखे त धोअण जी ॼाण न हुई। मां त कपिड़ा फाड़ींदो रहियुसि, पर कंहिं बि शिकायत न कई। हर फाटल कपिड़े में हिकु सोनो सिको लिकायो। असांजे प्यार लाइ सोन त नंढी क़ीमत आहे। के कपिड़ा उखड़िया त का वॾी ॻाल्हि न आहे, पर असांजी प्रीत जा ट्रोपा पुख्ता थिया। मोहम्मद सां मां वादो कयो त मां बंबोर में ई रहंदुसि। उते रहण मुंहिंजे लाइ सवलो हो। हूअं बि पंहिंजे राज वञी न सघां हा। मुंहिंजे दिलि जी राणी त हिते घाटनि में हुई। असांजा टह टह कंदा टहक मुलायम गजीअ जा वधंदा रहिया ऐं ॾींहं गुज़रंदे ऐं ॾींहं खिलंदे गुज़री विया। ससुई, असां ख़ुशीअ में रुधल ऐं बेफ़िक्र, जेसि ताईं मुंहिंजा भाइर आया। तूं हुननि खे केॾो न प्यार ॾिनो, पर हुननि असां सां ज़्यादती कई। धोबी घाटनि ते कंहिं पुराणे कपिड़े जा निपोड़ियो। असांजे जीवन जी तंद टुटी। चुनरुआ, होतू नोतू, तव्हां छा कयो? ससुई, मूंते यकीन कर। जॾहिं उन राति हू मूंखे नशे में उठ ते चाढ़े खणी विया, मूं शराब कान पीतो हो। मुंहिंजे प्याले में नशीली मदिरा हुई, जेका हुननि खे ख़बर हुई। तुंहिंजो चंड जहिड़ो चहिरो आ मुंहिंजो रहबर सितारो। ससुई मुंहिंजी प्यारी, सुर्गरूपी आकाश खोल त मां तो में समाइजी वञा।
पुनू, मुंहिंजी दिलि टुकड़ा टुकड़ा थी आहे। चीकी मिटीअ जे चूड़े जियां असांजी पीड़ा बेअंत आहे। चीकी मिटीअ जे चूड़े जियां असांजी पीड़ा बेअंत आहे। सरस्वती नदीअ जी ख़ुशबू हड हड में समायल, पर कारी राति में लूमड़ शिकार कनि ऐं कुदरत पाण दुश्मन थिए। हवा जंहिं तुंहिंजे पेरनि जा निशान ढाहे छॾिया। हवा जंहिं तुंहिंजे पेरनि जा निशान ढाहे छॾिया। ऐं सिज त लहण जी ज़िद ते आहे, ऐं सिज त न लहण जी ज़िद ते आहे। बरंदड़ आकाश, थधी हवा सुरके, चंड जा कारा पाछा पवन। हिननि गिड़नि लॻल टकरियुनि ते विछ, बांदर, बगड़ सभु मुंहिंजो रास्तो रोकीनि। पर जेसी जान आहे लॾियल मुसाफ़िर जे चोले में, मूंखे अॻिते हलणो आहे पुनू। जेसी जान आहे लॾियल मुसाफ़िर जे चोले में, मूंखे अॻिते हलणो आहे पुनू। जेसी ताईं मां तोखे न ॾिसां, मुंहिंजी उञ न मिटंदी। हिकु पल लाइ उमेद जागी। पबी जबल जी चोट ते, जितां पाणी ज़ोर सां वहियो, हिकु टकराए ते दड़ मां तुंहिंजो सुहिणो चहिरो छलकियो। पुनू, तुंहिंजो सुहिणो चहिरो छलकियो, मूं ॾांहुं मुरकियो। मूं तुंहिंजो चहिरो हथनि में भरियो। तुंहिंजी रूहानी ताक़त तेज़ीअ सां मुंहिंजे चहिरे में उथी। चश्मो उछली मोटी मुंहिंजे पेरनि ते उॿान की वारीअ विझी। मां धीरे धीरे बबूर पहुतसि, जिते हिकु टकरीअ मां नंढी झूपड़ी नज़र आई। ऐं दिलि में वरी उमंग जागी ऐं दिलि में वरी उमंग जागी नोकीली दग ते हिकु ॿियो माण्हू ईंदो ॾिठो पर पुनू ही रेडार हिन जी नज़र त ख़राबु आहे मां त हिन जी रिटर्न आहियां मूं हुन खां पाणी घुरियो ऐं जॾहिं हू वरियो मूं भॻवान खे यादि कयो पुनू मूं अर्ज़ु कयो त मूंखे हुन खां बचाए ऐं टकरी ॿिनि हिसनि में टुटी मां धरतीअ जे गर्भ में समाइजी वियसि मुश्क जा जादूगर सौदागर ॿीहर मिलंदासीं असीं अलाह सां गॾिजी हिकु थींदासीं
ज़मीन चीरजी पई आहे मुंहिंजे पेरनि ते तुंहिंजी गैर हाज़िरीअ मूंखे मारे छॾियो ससी मां तोखे लोचे ला मां मोटी ईंदुसि मुंहिंजा भाइर उमेद त मूंखे वञणु ॾींदा राजा मुंहिंजा पिता चाहियो त मां हुन वटि वञा पर हू मूंखे मरंदो सही न सघंदो त मां पुछां थो त मां तोखे हिते वठी अचां जिते जीअं केच मकरान खे तूं पंहिंजो सम्झी वीरानो सॾे रहियो आहे मां वञा थो सभिनी खां तकिड़ो उठ ॻोल्हे मुंहिंजा ॿाहिर टे दगाबाज़ छा मूंसां थींदा हू आरी जाम खे न मञण जी जुर्रत न कंदा मुंहिंजे मन जे गरम मंज़र में ससुई तूं खबड़ वण जा मज़बूत बीठी आहीं पर हू मबुहर में छा आहे पूरे घर हे कहिड़े संत जी क़बर आहे ताज़ी ऐं मिठी आली ही रेशमी कपिड़े जो टुकर जेको ज़मीन तां नज़र थो अचे कंहिंजो आहे मूं त पक भंबोर में ॾिठो आहे ही त ससुई जो रहो आहे पर हिते कीअं पहुतो बेधार मूंखे पंहिंजी कहाणी ॿुधाए त मां तोखे पंहिंजी दास्तान ॿुधाईंदुसि ससुई तूं किथे आहीं ससुई तूं हितां आई छा ही सन्नाटो मां सही न सघंदुसि ज़मीन ज़ोर सां थी ॿॾा भुरण लॻा मां चीर मां पेरनि सां अंदरि किरियुसि मिटी सुर्ग मथे सुर्ग खुलण जा आसार मथे सुर्ग खिलण जा आसार हेठि ज़मीन में रेढार जा पेर आसमान में चंड चमकियो हलंदड़ वाड़ीअ विच हा ससी हाणे मूंखे तोखे ॿुधां थो हा ससी हाणे मां तोखे ॿुधां थो पाण खे बि ॿुधां थो
पुनू तूं मूं वटि आयो आहीं हाणे मां न सिकंदसि पुनू तूं मूं वटि आयो आहीं हाणे मां न सिकंदसि छाकाणि त असां ॿई अलाह सां हिकु थिया आहियूं ससरी पुनू कॉल ऑफ द माउंटेन्स जबलनि जी पुकार महिरबानी
Thank you, Barkha. Thank you, Sushil. So this is a poem that is supposed to be the allegory of the union between the self and the divine. I do want to just read what Dr. Femida Hussain said about these women in Shalatif's poetry. Uh, this is a book, Image of Woman in the Poetry of Shah Abdul Latif. And in fact, Barkha shared it with me. And I recently had the pleasure of finding Dr. Hussain on Facebook. And she did say that she was traveling, and otherwise she would have joined today. So that is, I think, my loss. But this is what she says, and this is one of the things that made me start relating to these stories. I quote, "The female characters of Shah's era had all the signs of helplessness and slavery, but through his poetry, along with showing the entire social setup, Shah wanted people to see another image of a woman, a different and novel image." Dr. Hussain further points out that Latif wanted to show that women had unique qualities. Quote, "She is more intense than a man in patriotism, height of character, sacrifice, and determination. She has been made victim of different complexes, and in spite of her poverty, she has superior human qualities." And in fact, that was the other thing I related to, the fact that these are all stories of something that has not changed over 5,000 years and longer, human nature. and that's where I felt these stories still remain relevant in today's day and age. I think we move on to the third poem. Um, I
Princess
do
of
want to,
Illusion,
yeah, Princess of Illusion,
103.
uh, which Sushil and I will read. This is in English. There are Sindhi translations available of all these poems. I do also want to say that when I first started presenting these poems, people thought that they were translations that I had done in English of original Sindhi texts. And it took me several months to try and explain that this is not a translation of a Sindhi text. It is my retelling, my recreation as a poet writing in English. And then I wanted to give back to Sindhi literature by getting it translated into Sindhi, which Barkha has done beautifully. So thank you for that, Barkha. Sushil and I will present Princess of Illusion, which is the story of Mumal and Rano. They knew me as the Princess of Illusion, behind labyrinthine walls and a lake of glass, a maze where many suitors were lost. They were fools, Rano, all fools, and deserved what they got. Hunting me down like a deer, riding to Lodruvra, believing they were worthy of me. Kark was my refuge, my magic and mystery, a mirage for all but the best. The veils of the world were many, but it was here that I found true love. No one else was good enough, Rano, and though you believe I deceived you, you are still my king, I your queen. Let us make the right moves, beloved. This game of chess is one that both can win.
Yes, they were fools, my moon, but so were you. I used to row to Kark through riverbanks that were littered with graves of princes, saints, nobles, ascetics who never returned from your land. The gardens were enchanting, but enchanted too with twisted trees that wore their arms around unsuspecting throats. These men braved it all for you, beating the tram you placed outside your walls, as though victory was theirs already. Who knew that your servant Natur would entwine them in your maze? And there were those who fainted at the fake tiger that rose, and others who plunged on the roiling waters above the flimsy bridges you built, rested their tired backs on cots that collapsed into wells below. Yes, they were foolish, but, but so was I, believing you to be someone faithful to me.
What could we have done? My father, King Nand of Mirpur Mathelo, he lost his fortune because of my silly mistake. I believed the yogi who asked for help, saying he was ill, and the only cure would be the magic swine's tooth that my father had entrusted to me. Where this swine had walked, the waters receded. My father killed the beast, parted the waters, and buried his treasure where no one else could see. But this yogi turned out to be a thief and took it all. My father would have killed me, but Sumal came up with a plan, and we built Kak to recover his wealth.
We threw a beetle nut at the glistening waters of Kark, and when it bounced back, I knew it was just glittering glass. Do you think its watery sheen would fool me? How then did I end up being fooled by you? We had traveled far. Amish, Sundro, my king, and the other ministers of Umar, Kochiero, and Dandro, my friends, though not my equals as I learned at Kark. Our hunts took us to distant lands, and adventure was all we sought. A little excitement when the deer in the forest were not challenge enough for us. So when in the woods we met a prince in ragged clothes who spoke of how you robbed him, how you wandered confused in the maze in your palace of illusion and managed to escape this life. We knew that Kak would be our next conquest, or at least it would be mine. The journey was long. Kak with James and Sarah James dazzled in the dark, duplicities like you, and yet mine, mine alone. Also, I believe.
We saw you, my sisters and I knew you were the one, so handsome, so determined to make it through. Your companions were not good enough, not even your king. They fell to Suma's wiles. But you, whose weapon was a beetle nut, knew well that things are never what they seem. We have known the joy of streaming rivers, felt flowers come alight on these fertile banks. But every sunrise, Tirano, I wilted when you had to leave.
It was my jealous king who stopped me. Yet every night I wore my magic spurs and flew to you. The desert dunes were no match for my wings of flame. Your luminous face was the lamp that lit the way. We had but a few short hours before return, but they were enough to light my sky at dawn. The king found out and imprisoned me. He would have had me killed, but his queen, my sister, urged him to set me free. And so I returned, Mummal, risking my life for you, and found you were not alone. Who was it, my love? Who lay beside you in garb that resembled mine? I would have beaten him and you with my walking stick, but I merely left it behind so he would know that I was there.
What could I have done, Rano? Like a riverbed abandoned, I thirsted for you every night, waiting for the thunder of camel hooves. But silence crumbled upon my palace walls instead. Where once the euphoric shoreline swelled, the soil had turned to sand. That was Sumal, my sister, Rano, who lay by my side, lending me warmth until you came back. You should have trusted me, my love. Instead, like the Indus changing course, you left. It is months now since I came searching for you, disguised as a man, making Umercote my home until I saw your face again. Did you not realize, Rano, that it was me? Let us play chess just one last time and set the game on fire. If it is end game for us, I choose the kiss of death.
Mummal, always the princess of illusion. Where have you disappeared? What have you done? Life may have separated us. In death, we will unite. But tell me, love, in this game of chess, did either one of us win? Princess of Illusion, Menka Shivdasani. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sushil. Uh, I do want to show you this book. This cover was done by Shilpa Dinesh. And there is a film that Sushil Gajwani made, produced by Barkha Khushalani, on the Sasri Punhu film. So I just want to share that link. I've already shared the link and I'll put in the explanatory note there. And I would urge you to see that. And this book is available worldwide. It is published by Mr. Satya Patnaik. We are privileged to have him here today. Satya Patnaik is the publisher of Black Eagle Books. And his mission is to ensure that books do not ever go out of print. He's very committed to his own language, Oriya. But when I approached him for this book, it is not a book that most publishers would immediately agree to because it has three different scripts. Yeah, and he immediately said, yes, certainly we will do it. And Anand Lalchandani was the one who uh, actually sort of put the book together in the Sindhi and the Devanagari and Hindi. It's so working with all these languages is a very difficult thing to do. And I'm really, really grateful that I had the kind of support that I did to make it possible. And definitely Mohan Gehani's support was very, very important. And I truly regret that he could not be here. He had sent us a video which was played at the launch at the National Center for the Performing Arts. I don't know if it's possible to play that, Priya.
Yes, I will share it now.
Sindhis in India constitute only 0.5% of its population, and they are scattered all over India, not only in India, but all over the world. In India, after the partition, Sindhi language lost its utility value, and the future generations lost interest in the language, and they are not much interested in the language and the literature. It is not only with the Sindhi children, but the entire aspiring class of India is leaving their language. But they have a benefit of their villages where the language will survive. And for Sindhis, the challenge is very grave. In this situation, I commend Menka Shivdasani for writing poetry on folk tales of Sindh. These folk tales have been taken as a base by great poet Shah Abdul Latif for his poetry, and they constitute a bulk of Sindhi literature as well as culture. In case the future generations want to explore their roots, they will have to be provided some bridges to come back. And Mrs. Menka Shivdasani's poems will play such a role. She is to be congratulated for such a marvelous feat. Thank you.
So for me, like this has been a very, very fulfilling, um, experience because it has made me look at poetry in a very different way. It has made me look at Sindhi culture and literature in a very different way. It has taught me a lot. There is so much more that one needs to know about this. And this has been a very, very small first step for me. And I hope to learn more about Sindhi culture and heritage going forward. And I'm really happy to know that Priya and Gayatri have made this platform possible. And I'm very grateful to be on it to share this little uh, project of mine. Uh, Priya, over to you.
Yeah, so
And sorry, I just want to also say the one more thing. On Mohan Gehani's advice, I have also given these stories in a nutshell at the end of the book. So
hmm,
uh, people who want a little more straightforward narration of the stories will find it there at the end of the book as well. Thank you.
thank you so much. A huge thank you to Menka, Barkha, Sushil, and Mohan, and especially to Gayatri for making this session happen. Without her, this would not be possible. And today we were able to learn a little bit more about our culture and our history. Gayatri, I just want to quickly turn it over to you for any remarks before we open it up to questions.
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Priya, for giving me so many credits. I guess Sindhis Unite as a platform wouldn't have been possible without you and your continuous support. in providing us with the platform, providing me with a platform because I just come up with the ideas. Okay, Priya, let's do this and let's do that. And you are always supportive. So, your support matters a lot. It's just not a one-man army. I mean, I can't really do everything alone. You have always supported me in everything that I have asked for. So let's just stop giving out credits to each other like this and become a dream team together. And thanks, Menka, for everything. Thanks, Barkha ji, for being available on one call. Thanks, Sushil. I think I should have rather, given out more time to you guys, tried meeting you guys, but it's just that, the timetables that we all are having, it just gets very busy, and I'm really sorry about that. Also, I'm very sorry about whatever happened in the beginning of the session. It was absolutely uncalled for and wasn't, very unforeseen of a situation happened. And I guess we lost a lot of our audience because of that. And the event hasn't gone as it should have gone, but never mind. It was an absolutely uh, nerve-wracking of a lesson that we have learned today. So, yeah,
And
I'm so sorry again to our audience and to our guest in the panel. But yeah, thanks so much for everyone to join us. And before we open up for the Q&A, because a lot has happened, so let's just keep the Q&A for 10 minutes. And before anyone else has a doubt regarding the books, we have made sure that the book is available in most of the countries. I am not really sure if it's available in Pakistan because unfortunately I'm not in the disposal of, being able to check that. But if you guys have friends and family abroad, please ask them or you can check it for yourself. However, it's available in the US and in other parts of the world. So if you
Eh,
have any other questions from the authors, feel free to ask. But let's all just maintain the decorum. Thanks so much, guys.
But the publisher is here, so he might be able to answer that question.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Satya
Uh,
Patnaik is the publisher, Black Eagle
yeah.
Book.
Would you want to say anything, Mr.
Yeah.
Satyapatnai?
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Satya Patnaik and I live in Columbus, Ohio, United States. I have been living in this country for almost 27 years. And before answering that question, let me tell you about this Black Eagle books, the goal of this publication. This is not a commercial publication at all. My goal is to propagate Indian culture, literature, and authors worldwide. That is a single line goal. And because, you know, many of diaspora, Indian diaspora, people live in United States and we struggle for our identity. And American people or world people, they do not really know much about us. Um, so I think let me bring out these books. Let me make them available all in all libraries, universities, wherever they want, they can get and they know about us and our next generations. They also connect to our roots through these books. So that is my goal, and I am happy to publish this book, and I am happy to help the Sindhi community. We have a Sindhi community here also locally. They know me, I know them. And coming back to the availability of the book, this book is available worldwide through Amazon. If Pakistan people they can access any Amazon through their country, they can get this book. Amazon has 20 plus sites to cover the world. So wherever your local Amazon which you use, you can get this book there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Satya. I mean, I was really, really happy to discover him with my other book, Big Bridge Anthology, which first appeared online and, earlier, 10 years earlier. And I wanted a print edition, and he immediately agreed, especially after the publisher passed away, and I wanted to do this, and he was waiting to see the print edition before he passed away, and he could not. Entirely my fault. But Satya was the one who ensured that it came out, and that's also available worldwide, the Big Bridge Book of Contemporary Indian Poetry. And he does amazing work. And in fact, he told me that, you should do a book on Sindhi writers. You should do a book on Sindhi culture. And I said, what you're talking about is a 2-year project.
Yeah.
thank you for encouraging that, and thank you, Minka, for following through with that. Appreciate that. So now what we're going to do is we are going to open it to question and answer. If anybody has any questions for anybody, please feel free to either type your question in the chat or raise your hand and come off of mute. So do we have any questions? Yes, Nadeem?
Yeah, thank you so much for organizing this, and it was really nice to hear, Menka, your translations. And I know literal translations can be different, but what you have done is really remarkable, and this is the kind of thing we really need to propagate Sindhi thought and Sindhi ethos. Uh, so thank you very much for all that work. Thank you for the publisher and Priya. I don't know if you remember. I remember you from YSA events
Yes.
back in the day.
I was just going to
So
message you to see if you were the same Nadeem Jamali.
yeah,
Small
yeah,
world. Thank you for
yeah.
joining.
No, thank you very much. And too bad things were disrupted in the beginning. I was a little bit concerned about that. So at our university recently, there was a disruption in Zoom for that kind of thing. So it does happen. So that's too bad. But no, thank you so much for doing this thing, and I hope to participate more in the future. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nadeem.
Thank you for joining us.
Anybody else have any questions, any comments, anything they would like to share that stood out for them for this session, anything they resonated with while we're waiting? I do have a question for Menka, for Sushil, for Barkha, and for Satya. What inspired you to get involved and make this happen?
So for me, it was the fact that I did not know enough about my culture. I did not know enough about my traditions. Of course, I went to a convent school and I grew up in a cosmopolitan city. And I belong to that generation that did not speak Sindhi. Unfortunately, I can understand Sindhi. I can speak it a little bit, but I wouldn't do so publicly because I'm sure I get it all wrong. So she always laughs at me when I try to speak
You
Sindhi.
can join Kamal Uncle's Cindy classes.
I have actually had the privilege of meeting him in Mumbai, and Kamal Vishnani did classes at a college in Mumbai run by a Sindhi trust, Hyderabad Sindh National Collegiate Board. And I attended a couple of those. And I think there were only one or two. I don't think there were too many. And I have met him, and I've quoted him in other books as well, where I've talked about his classes and romanisindhi.org, right? Is the website. So, uh, to go back to my interest, it was in uh, in the late 1980s when I was in my mid 20s. I left India to work in Hong Kong with the South China Morning Post as a journalist. I'm a journalist by profession. And there was this friend that I had, boy called Manish, who was born in London of Sindhi parents. And he visited Sindh one day. He visited, on holiday, and he came back in a rage. He came back in a fury with photographs of the house that his family once owned. And, it's a beautiful mansion. And he said, one day I'm going to be rich enough to buy this back for my children. It's their heritage. And something in me something said, 1 minute, there's something here I need to know more about. There's something I need to think more about in that statement. And that's when it started, clicking, and I started saying, okay, I need to know more about the Sindhi culture. And then couple of years later, when I came back to India, my friend Anju Makhija, who was also a poet writing in English, and she went on to translate Shah Abdul Latif later. But Anju came to me and asked, do you want to do Sindhi partition? Do you want to translate Sindhi poetry? At that time, we didn't think of partition as the theme. We just wanted to do Sindhi poetry. And then we worked with a professor from my college, whom I didn't know. I didn't study under him, but I'd seen him around. Dr. Arjun Shad Mirchandani, a very celebrated poet, Sahitya Academy award-winning poet. And we worked with him for 4 years on the book that I showed you earlier, this one, Freedom and Fishers, published by Sahitya Academy. A lot of his personal collections, because he knew poets from Sindh,
Hmm.
and he had these poems, these books that very few people would have in Mumbai. And unfortunately, uh, that whole collection was lost in the floods because he lived in a ground floor flat. And I believe it was all gone when the floods happened. So luckily, we got it just in time, and Sahitya Academy published this. There were poets we approached who said that they had not written poems about Sindh or the partition because it was too traumatic an experience. The community wasn't talking about what they had been through. And when one of these poets, Kemat Harisinghani, told me, I don't have any poems on Sindh, about the partition. Arjan Shad said, what is he talking about? I will show you poems by him on the partition. And he came up with a beautiful poem about a deer lost in the forest, which we have in this book. And at the time of the launch, there was a Marathi poet who was sitting in the audience. And we didn't know him. We didn't know who he was. And uh, Niranjan, uh, surname, Uzgare. So he told us afterwards, he said, I did not know that Sindhis had suffered so much. I thought I was very culturally aware, but I had no idea. So he decided that he was going to translate this into Marathi. And then there was a Gujarati poet who decided to translate it into Gujarati. So from Sindhi, it went to English, and English, like Mohan Gehani was saying earlier before we started our meeting and then he had to leave, English is a very important bridge language. So from Sindhi, it went to English, and therefore it went to Marathi and to Gujarati. So I think, it's wonderful that there is a generation of writers like Saz Agarwal, Nandita Bhavnani, Anju Makhija, who have felt this lack and have stepped in to do something about it. I think that is the way forward, really, because
New way
we are
forward.
in that transition period where
Mm.
the next generation is learning Sindhi because now there are concerted efforts taking place.
Yes.
And I have seen college students speaking very fluent Sindhi and they're learning the language. So I think it's all coming full circle now.
Yes.
And I think in another 10 years, another 15 years, there will be, going back to the roots. And we are in the transition phase. And I must say that English and English speakers are making that difference. I'm not just talking about myself, I'm talking about this generation. And I think it's an inevitable process. So while we may not know the language, we can bring our skills to work with the Sindhi writers.
Mm.
Gehani and I have worked on 3 of his books together. And I
Great.
think that sort of connection is very important to keep the culture alive.
That's
Barkha has grown up with it also. Maybe she has a different perspective. She's always saying, I have to teach you Sindhi, I have to teach you Sindhi, I have to make you learn. Okay, okay, I'm not even going to try.
okay.
I'll try one word, one word, one word.
No, मुझे खबर कौन है?
Ah, see, very
क्या
good.
करें?
You said it, you said it.
Did it. You
When I went to the Indian Institute of Sindhology in 2011, I was doing a feature on Sindhi literature for Muse India. And I went there and there was this Sahib Bijani who is still running it. Yeah, he's in his 90s and he's, I believe, not well, but he's still running it. And he refused to speak to me in English. He said, "You want to know about the culture, you speak in Sindhi." So poor Lakshmi Khilani, who was the secretary at that time of the institute, he sat with me and we were doing this, he was translating and he was acting like this bridge. And then at some point, there were some biscuits on the table. So I picked up the plate and I offered it to Sahib Bichani. And I said, Ta khano na. So he burst out laughing. And he was supposed to be this very stern man, and I saw this beautiful smile and I said, he's not so stern. He's a lovely person. And he laughed and he said, see, it's in your blood. You have the accent. You people don't realize you have it in your blood. So that was a very interesting experience for me.
Thank you for
But
sharing.
Barkha, and Sushil has
Yes,
grown up. He was born in a
since
refugee.
you are talking about Mr. Saib Bijani, I call him Mr. Google because wherever I get stuck with any Sindhi word, any Sindhi couplet, first call will go to Mohan uncle and Saib Bijani uncle. So for me, Priya and Gayatri, it is a give back. It is a dedication. Whatever I do in Sindhi is for my parents. Because had my mother not taught us, we wouldn't be here today. And I have grown up seeing them promoting Sindhi in every form because my mother was a singer, she was a writer, my father was a writer. So probably genes play a very big role here. So whether I write good or bad, I will continue expressing my thoughts. And Mummy used to say that you can go and learn 100 languages, but begin with your mother tongue. So I think it's very important for all of us to speak at home. If we do that, then half the battle is won. And that's it. All I do is for my parents.
Maybe Sushil has another perspective. Sushil is actually the author of a very interesting book that's just come out, Sunrise over Valiwade, which is a refugee camp in Kolhapur, which is a memoir.
Is he there?
He's here.
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. See, this is how I look at how I got involved into, I knew Sindhi right from my childhood. I studied Sindhi, of course, and I made it a point to learn Arabic and whatever. Roman Sindhi is what we've been writing since 25 years. It's nothing new to us. All of us have been. When we communicate with guys in the US, we write in Roman Sindhi anyway. Now, coming to the point, how is it that what inspires me about this is that, see, I've done Marathi cinema and I've done Hindi cinema. So that's how I learned that your culture is so important, and how Marathi, my Marathi friends love their literature, their writers, they respect them, and so that was always my that was a kind of very high benchmark I've always had. So some years ago, I decided to start this roots with with Barkha, Khushalani, Menka Shivdasani, Gayatri, and Shashi, and everybody. Because my belief is that if you want others to learn your language, your children to learn your language, or anybody who wants to learn your language or the mother tongue, the best two mediums are, one is cinema. That's how we made a film, Barkha, this Sindhi feature film called After and the Last One. The other most effective way to teach your language to youngsters is through poetry. See, I was doing this Doordarshan program some years ago, and I used to interview people, and I wanted to start my show, not the regular welcome, whatever. I had to start with some poem in Sindhi. So I started reading a lot of poetry, and I came across Nanlal Javeri, I came across Paru Thakur Chawla, across so many other poets. So my belief is, my conviction is that you have to go through poetry. Therefore, we started Roots. It's done in English and Sindhi and whatever. So that's the way we should go about, talking about this language. That's what's going to help this language grow rich. That's the only way. And you see, the other thing is, we all of us say Barkha, Menka, that unless we make our language more vocational in terms of it should help you earn money. It's happening. But it's happening only to the Sindhi singers who are singing all over the world. Most of them are not, some of them are good, some of them are not even good. But that happens to any language. They are making a lot of money, which is good. So it should also come to writers, authors in Sindhi too. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for
And
sharing.
we should, sorry, one sentence I have to say, Priya, and we should make our language fashionable. I don't know how we do it. Otherwise, we all fashion conscious, the
True.
diamonds and the chiffons. But then language ko kya kare? We have to think about that.
I've
Very.
actually heard that conversation at the Hyderabad Sin National Collegiate Board, which runs, 14, 16 colleges. And they have talked about it. It is part of their mission to promote Sindhi as a Sindhi minority institute. And they have talked about trying to make Sindhi fashionable, in terms of, literally fashion shows and other trendy ways. So I think that that movement is happening now, and uh, there's also very robust conversation happening through WhatsApp groups, through Facebook groups, through platforms like yours,
Yes,
which did not exist 10 years ago.
very true.
So,
Very, very true.
the feature that I did on Sindhi literature for Muse India in 2011 was a single-handed effort because I had no community to turn to. And today, Muse India has again asked me to do a feature which is going to appear in 2026. And I reached out to the community because now there are people I can approach who can give me diverse perspectives. So I immediately I had such an enthusiastic response. People who want to write about various aspects of Sindhi literature and share their writing in English and Sindhi, and writing about other people and larger trend stories, larger perspectives. So that's a tremendous change that has happened. Sahitya Academy in March had this huge event, and Sindhi was definitely a part of it. I was invited to speak about Sindhi literature at the Sahitya Academy Festival of Letters. Hyderabad Literary Festival in January. They had their focus language as Sindhi. Barkha, we were there. So, Nandita was there, Saz was there, Rita Kothari was there. We were all speaking about Sindhi. 10
Oh,
years ago, that would not have happened.
that's so true. I've met Saz at the Sindhi Sammelan a few years ago, and Sushil was speaking about even music on our Clubhouse platform. Twice we've actually had a more up and coming singer, Vandana Nirankari, who's starting to redo a lot of our classic Sindhi songs as well as her own music. So one time we had a proper fireside chat with her on our Clubhouse platform, which is audio only. And then another time we had our weekly sessions and she saw what was going on. So she just popped in to say hello and she sang a song for us. So I agree, all these platforms are really bringing more awareness and also connecting everybody to learn more and share more. So thank you for
There's
sharing.
one thing I need to say, Priya and Menka and BK, Barkha, when they mentioned that we need to make the language fashionable. So this is my personal thing, of course. By conducting fashion shows, it's not going to make any language fashionable because fashion shows are done, they are regardless of the language. I think it's the moment all these successful guys, entrepreneurs, industrialists, actors, they start speaking the language on and off wherever. That's going to pick up. That's going to be fashionable. That's not happening now. What happens is most of the time we speak in Hindi in India. If you 10 Sindhi guys or women meet, they generally prefer they choose to speak in Hindi and not in Sindhi. So they probably think this is not fashionable. So that's saying that attitude has to change, that mindset has to change because all of us probably feel that this is not a language that's fashionable or glamorous, as you might want to say. So that's the only way to do it. Like the songs, the music. If you look at the Hindi and Marathi poetry presentation at some other places in Bombay, they make it more dramatic and they don't even, I mean, they read it so beautifully that it becomes a fashionable thing. That's it.
I also feel about that topic that a lot of us learned the culture or the language where we ended up so we can assimilate better to where we were. Because, for example, if you look at the Gujarati community, from when they're little, their children are taught to mainly speak in Gujarati. And I've heard in some instances they learn English in school, they only speak in Gujarati. And I think if Sindhis took that same theory and applied it, but I think in order for us to assimilate and be successful wherever we were, we learned Hindi, we learned English, we learned so we could, survive and thrive where we were. But I think everyone is now, as you said, made more of an effort to learn and speak. Minka, you wanted to say something, and then I just want to get to Nadeem because he's had his hand up for a while.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Sushil said, I think it's also a question of the unfortunate stereotypes about Sindhis. So
Mm.
you don't want to be identified as a Sindhi because immediately it'll be like, oh, diamonds, oh, just a very superficial person
Yeah,
just wanting money. And that's so untrue. It's so untrue of most Sindhis. So
yeah,
I think that is part of the hesitation. You don't want to be identified that way.
yeah. Very,
Okay.
very
No,
true. Nadeem, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, what Menka was just saying, in Pakistan, the Sindhi situation is the complete reverse. Nobody imagines diamonds when they talk about Sindhis. But I guess one thing that I was thinking about was in the context of how to make it fashionable. I think just the poems that were read today, the themes, the the level to which the women are empowered, and the way the men in these poems are acting. You know, Ranu comes and he suspects that his wife or his beloved is sleeping with somebody else. He does not even bother to interrupt. He does not wake her up. He just leaves his stick there as to just let her know. So that kind of honor among men and women, these themes, these themes would be very fashionable, or well, they could make it fashionable, or make Sindhis feel proud of their heritage and the kind of equality and respect among genders and among religions and among classes that we see. I mean, the Omar Marvi, the story there. So I think so. The kind of translation that Menka that you have worked on, it reminded me of the very popular translations of Hafiz Shirazi, the Sufi poetry from Iran, where so there's this one guy who did it. It's not literal, but he's put it uh, in idiomatic English, modern English language, in a way which is accessible to English speakers, because a lot of the translations from the past were not. Uh, so one other thing I just remembered was that I've known Dr. Famida Hussain for a long time. Her older brother, Siraj Mimar, so he was the best friend of my dad's, and I grew up around him. And he had this book called Parado Soi Sad, that the echo is the call, which was sort of a very it was a classic book, and but Famida Hassan, she's an excellent writer and scholar in her own right, and she was very. I remember growing up seeing that she was a feminist figure in our family circle. So I think people like that are just they're really like well they are. Uh, we are very modern kind of people. So one opportunity that may come with, uh, you know, the newer generation learning Sindhi could also be, connecting back to the culture. And so a lot of the Sindhis from Pakistan, at least the circles in which I am often finding myself, they want to connect more with Sindhis abroad, and also as time passes, more and more they are feeling that, hey, there was a particular thing about the soul of Sindh, and the fact that there was a larger number of Hindus living in their midst, that that made them a special people, which they've lost. So some of them also think that that is something that is uh, they want to reconnect too. So I'm wondering if in the future there will, and with the help of technology, that there will be opportunities to do cultural exchanges and things like that. Yeah, sorry, I talked for too long, but yeah, it's been a great experience. Thank you.
Thank you
There
for
is a very vibrant WhatsApp group, Sindhi Culture Foundation discussions, book discussions, and there are people from both sides of the border. So I think
sharing.
that kind of technology makes it, makes such a difference.
And even in our clubhouse, we have people from all over the world join from the US, from India, from Pakistan. Akhtar, I know you're originally from Pakistan and he joins our sessions weekly. Would you just like to share your opinion on that? What you feel about the session? If you're able to speak right now, he may not be available. But so we really try and we don't focus on the differences between everybody. We just focus on the commonality and what we love about being Sindhi. So it just continues to bring everyone together. For example, um, Minji, Dado and Dadi and Nano and Nani, Hyderabad mein hua. And so a few people on there, we connected and they said, oh yeah, this, hospital is still there. This school is still there. And my family that grew up in Sindhi were like, oh, they were able to relate to that. So it was nice to connect everything together.
So I would like to say one thing, Priya.
Please do.
So with you youngsters, Priya and Gayatri, I see a ray of hope. And my mother would say that "Je hik maanu bas Sindhi ॻाल्हाईंदो न, the Sindhi language मरंदी न." That
Oh,
was mummy would always say that, yeah.
that's so sweet.
So with youngsters like you and with Kamalji's guidance, there's no looking back.
Yeah, I was just about to say it's really all thanks to Kamal Uncle. He dedicates so much of his time. Every week he has Cindy classes and they're recorded and they're on YouTube for those that want to continue to learn and cannot make the class in person. So thank you, Kamal Uncle, for your continued dedication to teach us to have us practice speak Sindhi because that's how we're going to carry it forward. Thank you, Barkha. Would anybody else like to say any words or comments or share some thoughts? Otherwise, we will wrap up today's session.
You overshot.
A little bit, but you know what? This was important, and thank you everyone for staying on. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your resilience. Thank you for working
Our
through all
pleasure.
the technical difficulties. And I think this was such a wonderful session and insightful. And we have put the link in the chat for YouTube. It's on YouTube at Sindhis Unite. So it's SINDHISUNITE. And we will have sessions again in the future. Keep checking our YouTube. Keep checking our Instagram at Sindhis Unite. And if you would like to join our weekly clubhouse sessions, send us a message on Instagram or email us at cindiesunite@gmail.com and we will let you know how to join. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you to our guest speakers. Thank you to everyone for interacting and your comments and your thoughts, and especially a huge, huge thank you to Gayatri for really spearheading this and making this happen. So we look forward to seeing everyone at future events. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much
Priya and
for
Gayatri.
organizing this
Thank
and for inviting me. It was a real pleasure. And to Sushil and Barkha for immediately agreeing when I asked them if they would participate. And they have their own books as well, so they must be part of future
We would love to
events.
have you on. I think we have a few sessions lined up already, thanks to you. So we will discuss offline and
you.
take it.
Thank
Wonderful. And
Thank you.
thank you, Gayatri. Thank you, Priya. Thanks, everyone, for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you to Satya Patnaik for making this book possible.
Yes, thank you so much. Take care. Until next time. Bye.